Hello everybody! In this Python Pandas tutorial we're going to go over how you can concatenate data frames. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start out with these two data frames, store 1 and store 2. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. So we have some made up sales data for store 1 for the years 14, 16, 17 and for store 2, 15, 16, 17. Now there's all kinds of different ways that we can concatenate these data frames and combine them. So let's say for our first example we want to take this store sales data and put it on top of each other. Now to do that we can use pandas.concat. Then we want to put in the data frames that we want to combine. And then here we have a few key arguments for the concat, the axis and the join. So if you use axis 0, that concatenates the data vertically and puts it on top of each other and makes it taller. That is the default. If you use axis 1, that concatenates the data, makes it wider, and puts it side to side. Now for the join, you can use the inner join or the outer join. The inner join, the result is a table that only contains the values that have matches, or where they intersect, or where they have shared data in both tables. The outer join is a table that contains all values from both tables. And when a value from either table doesn't have a match with the other table, you will see not a number. Okay, so you'll see NaN. So for this first example, since we said we wanted to put the stores data on top of each other and make it taller, we're going to use axis 0. So that will concatenate the rows. If we use the inner join, that will only show us what is shared, or the intersection of the data. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure we've run this. Let's copy our variable and take a look at the result. Okay, so you can see for store 1 and store 2, the concat vertical result puts the data on top of each other. But you'll notice that in this case, when we use the inner, it's only going to join the intersections. For store 1, we have 2014 sales data, but for store 2, we don't. And for store 2, we have 2015 data, but for store 1, we don't. So the only two things that intersect or are in common are the 2016 and 2017 data, and that's what we get here and here. Now, if we change this join to an outer, we're going to get all the data. So let's go ahead and run that. Let's clear our console. Okay, so now you can see, since we changed the join from the inner to the outer, we get all of the data combined. So once again, store 1 had 14 data, but store 2 did not, so we get NaNs there. Same principle for 2015. Store 1 did not have the data, but store 2 did. So for store 1, we just get NaNs. And then, of course, where we have data in both tables, you get all of the data. Let's go ahead and clear that. Now, let's say that we wanted to combine our data side to side. For that, we can use pandas.concat, put in the data frames you want to combine, and then for the axis, you want to put in 1. And that will concatenate the columns side to side. And if we didn't mention it before, the keys just allow you to title your data. So let's go ahead and copy this. Take a look. So you can see that the data has been concatenated side to side. Here we have store 1, sales data, 14, 16, 17, store 2, 15, 16, 17. Now we have a few more examples. Let's go ahead and take a look at our data frames, data frame 1 and data frame 2. And let's go ahead and look at some of the different ways that you can concatenate these two data frames. So for the first one, result 1, we've used axis 0, which will combine the rows and make the data set taller. And you can see that here. We use the inner join, which will only show us the intersection or the shared data. So if you look at data frame 1 versus 2, the shared data is B and D. Okay, so it concatenated the rows. We get all of those, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 6, 7, 2, 3, 6, 7 at the intersection using inner of the columns B and D. Let's take a look at another example, result 2. In this case, we want to concatenate using axis 1, which will concatenate the columns, and we're going to go ahead and use the inner join again. So it will only show the intersection of what's in common. Now in this case, it's going to show the intersection of the rows. So using axis 1, it concatenated the columns A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, B, D, F, B, D, F. And using inner, the intersection of the rows. The only thing that's in common is 2, 3, 2, 3, and that's what we get. Next example, result 3. So for this one, we use axis 0, which will concatenate the rows, and we use the outer join, which will show us all the data. And referencing our notes from earlier, when a value from either table doesn't have a match with the other table, you see an NaN. So you can see our NaNs here. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example. Result 4. So in this case, we use axis 1, which will concatenate the data side to side, and we use the outer join again, which will show all of the data. And you can see the result of that here. Now, let's go ahead and take all of these examples and show them in a slightly different way to help visualize what's going on. Okay, so for our result 1, we use axis 0 and inner. And you can see data frame 1 and 2, we are concatenating the rows, so that's going to make it taller and put the data on top of each other. And you can see in yellow what's combined from data frame 1 to 2. So this data here goes here. This data here goes here. The D column data goes here. And this D column data goes here. For result 2, we use axis 1, which concatenates side to side. So you can see we get the wider data set. Using the inner, we only get the intersection or the shared. And once again, you can see how the yellow here and here is combined to make up this result. Now for results 3 and 4, we use the outer for both. And remember that combines all of the data. So you can see how this data frame 1 and data frame 2 go together to produce the final outcome. So this data here is this data. We have an A column in data frame 1, but not in data frame 2. So where the data would be for data frame 2, we get NaN. Both data frames have B in common, so we get that here. Data frame 1 has a C column, we get that, but data frame 2 does not, so we get NaNs. Data frame 1 and 2 have Ds, we get all of that data here. And data frame 2 has an F, but data frame 1 does not. So for data frame 1, we get NaNs, and then we get the data frame 2 data here. For result 4, it's the same principle. However, in this case, we're joining side to side. Okay? Now, for our last example, we just want to show you that you can do all of this with CSV data as well. So we have two CSV files here and here. This is what the first one looks like. And this is what the second one looks like. So let's go ahead and pull both of those CSV files in as data frames. We use Pandas read CSV. We reference where the file is and the name of it. And finally, to do a very simple concatenation using all of the defaults, we just use pandas.concat and we put in the data frames. So let's go ahead and run this. And let's take a look at the result. And here we get our concatenated data frames. Okay, so that's all we have for this Python Pandas tutorial. We will be doing many more Python tutorials in the near future. Join us for those.